No matter what the topic is, no matter what's going on, bad takes are always going to exist, whether it's music, movies, food, beverage, sport, politics, whatever it takes, bad takes are going to exist everywhere. And because I am a big believer in accountability, I thought it would be a fun exercise to properly put 24 behind us and go through my 5 worst takes. I was kind of considering doing a worst and best, but 2 reasons why I'm not doing a best takes list. One is not the reason you are thinking of. If you get into the comments and go, probably didn't have enough to fill a list, very funny. But I grew up with boomer-aged parents, so the idea of bragging about myself is just not a thing. I was a chef for 6 years. Complimenting myself sounds insane to me. And the second reason why I'm not doing that is I just don't think that's enjoyable. However, looking back over the things that slightly went wrong and being able to take the piss out of yourself for 10 minutes, I think is an objectively healthy thing to do. I also know that in making 120 long-form videos last year, I think 60-odd shorts, all of these things are going to have different kinds of conversational styles. Some of them are going to be more predictions, some of them are going to be reactions, some of them are going to be proactive statements, all of these kinds of things. You're not going to get everything right. No one you follow gets everything right. I, at least, am going to shine a light on the things that slightly went askew. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, objectively, number 1 and number 2 on this list are in order. The other 3 are just an order. If you argue over the order, guys, I can't help you. That just is what it is. But here we go. The 5 objectively worst takes from Daz Talks Footy in 2024. And I had to have said them on this channel. So my Tom Barras mock trade tweet does not count, but it was egregious. Just putting it out there. So let's do this. Number 5. Now, I've always said that I am more pro-player and more criticising from a team point of view, but when you put lofty expectations on a player and they don't deliver in any kind of meaningful way, I think it makes the list just. And in my which players will become A-graders by the end of the year, and if I can kind of put a humble brag in here, Isaac Rankin and Jai Newcomb, I think, are both ticks from that video personally, but this isn't the best takes, this is the worst takes, in which I said that Gold Coast's Bailey Humphrey will be an A-grader by the end of 24, and there is no reasonable metric that backs this up, unfortunately. I've still got faith in Bailey as a player, and if he explodes this year, I will happily say that I was just a year ahead of everyone else, but with numbers like that, I can't sit here and say that was a great call, so it makes the list. Unfortunately, and I really hope Bailey has an awesome year, an awesome career, don't try and play him like Dustin Martin. Let him be the best version of himself, but prediction-wise, got that wrong. I really love the trade and draft space, and I know that I said that I'm not going to include the Tom Barras thing. That does not mean that West Coast escape this list, because in my how many first rounders will be traded video, I claimed that there is no way, 0 chance West Coast trade pick 3. We know what happened, of course, that they ended up doing the deal with Carlton that eventually landed them effectively Liam Baker, Tom Gross, and Bo Allen. We will see how that goes, and we will see how that ages. Right now, I don't think that's aging awfully, and of course, West Coast fans are going to be hoping that Jagger Smith doesn't become a superstar, which in my opinion, I understand that 100%. I've got no qualm against that in the slightest. However, I can also understand the notion of we just want Bo to be better. And I love that, but when you say that something has a 0% chance of happening, you got to get called out on it. And that's the theme, the vibe, all of those good things. West Coast fans are still unhappy about it. I still get comments in old videos that go, Daz, I still can't believe they did this. Like I said, how it ages will obviously depend on a lot of things, but when you say something has a 0% chance of happening, and then it happens, you make the list. So ever since leading Talking Hawks, the fan-driven media page, all about talking about the Hawks, you wouldn't believe it, I was able to do a whole lot more Hawthorn content on my channel, and I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that Talking Hawks stopped me from doing that, but that was kind of my outlet for Hawthorn content, and I kind of not wanted to keep it away from Daz Talks Footy. I also didn't really want to regurgitate content, keep everything fresh, so Talking Hawks was my Hawthorn thing, and the channel didn't have a lot of Hawthorn stuff on it. In fact, I think I'd only done one long-form video about Hawthorn whilst I was associated with Talking Hawks. So when the Hawthorn content came about, I was loving it, thriving it, and discussing how the Hawks will go in the finals. I actually think my call of Hawthorn in an interstate final would be pretty decent chance how they travel on the road, the unity and all of those things. And then I discussed that at the MCG. I would almost back Hawthorn nearly against anyone of the likely opponents. So you take Sydney, of course, out of the equation at that point. But if it worked out to be a Geelong or someone like that, I would almost back Hawthorn against anyone, except I said, and I quote, I wouldn't back the Hawks in a final against the Dogs. Whoops. That did not age well at all. And what a time it was. I am convinced that the shining light out of this game was that the Mrs.'s little bloke was converted to a Hawthorn fan just based off the energy, the vibe, and the good times that were being created as that game was going on, and was probably the most excited I've been probably since 2016, although that elimination final against the Cats did not end well. This game did, but when you turn around and say things like, there could be 4 or 5 MCG opponents, and the only one that I think we would lose to is the one we ended up playing and beating, that is a level of pessimism that only Daz could come up with. So, yeah, whoops. But hey, if you want to go with Daz reverse jinxed us into a semi-final, I will take it. But yeah, not great, but the number 1 and number 2 on this list are horrific. So, here we go. Is it cheating if I put a 3-way tie in at number 2? Now, the fact that all 3 of these takes came in the same video, I think makes it okay. But effectively, I am going to call out the absolute nonsense that was my ladder prediction this year, because it was not great, did not age well in the slightest. I'll go through reasonings, because as I've said plenty of times on the channel, is that I will back myself against my reasoning. If I've got the reasons and I can justify it in a way that makes me go, I feel clear and confident in what I've said, how things age are what they are, right? But I don't want to throw anything out there that is altogether that bad. However, can't really excuse some of this shit. So let's go through first. Who wasn't there that really needed to be there? Well, I didn't have Sydney in my top 8, and they made the granny. That's not great at all, and considering at the time, and if I can find the messages that I had with Smithy, I'll put them up. If I can't, because Messenger's being weird, I'll just tell you what they say anyway, is that the club that I was debating on, which club I was higher on at that time, now keep in mind that by round 2, I reckon, last year, I knew I was wrong. The thing is, though, when you put things out on YouTube and you create content in that, is that you are bound by your latest opinion of something. Now, people think that you are bound by every opinion, which I could not disagree with more, because if you talk about the same topic over and over again, you can only be more bound, or the most bound, I should say, by the last time you discussed something. With more information, opinions evolve. However, is that an excuse for me putting St Kilda in my top 8 and not Sydney? Absolutely not. In the slightest at all. Inexcusable. I'd like to say I'm better than this, but at the point of recording, I don't know if I was. So, not great by dazzling there. I had Melbourne in my 8, and if Smithy watches this, he can back me up, because I remember saying to him, Melbourne don't make the 8, and I'm not brave enough to put it in there. Well, the good news for you guys is that the bravery stuff can go out the window, because if I'm going to call myself out for the bad takes, at least trust your instincts, dazzling. So that's what we'll do there. So Sydney not in the 8, St Kilda in the 8, Melbourne, I should have listened to myself, but I'm not really making that as bad. I don't think that was the hottest take, putting them in the 8. But of course, Adelaide being a top 4 side, really didn't work out. They did get who I think is going to be a real contender for the Rising Star in Sid Draper, but that is not a top 4 finish. So, yeah, ladder prediction this year, not great, and is something that I definitely know that I need to put more effort into in my 2025 predictions video. So, look, not great. 4 out of 8 this year is not good enough. We have got to bounce back. I reckon we will. My worst take of the year. How is it not Adelaide finishing top 4, Daz? Well, because it ain't. And everything that I said about you can only be bound by your latest opinion, this is going to seem hypocritical now because my opinion on this evolved throughout the year. However, I think the blanket write-off of an original opinion or an early on opinion needs to be considered here, because even though things evolved and things changed, I don't think this is acceptable. And when I did early on in the year, I did a video about how I feel about every team. I don't think it was at the halfway mark. I think it was after maybe a month or 6 weeks of footy. I said, and I quote, at the end of my Adelaide analysis, and I went, unfortunately for the Crows, the top 4 prediction sucks. They're gone. And speaking of gone, so are Brisbane. And Brisbane won the flag. Yeah, that didn't age well in the slightest. So maybe we can go with things like Brisbane are in huge struggle town right now. But look, that one bit me. I am confident, though, that as soon as the wheel started to turn, that I jumped on Brisbane reasonably well. But again, this is the standard that you've got to hold yourself accountable to. 2024 is officially behind us, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Yes, there were good takes. No, I'm not going to spend a considerable amount of recording time bragging about them, because to me, that sounds ridiculous. But hey, let's have one last giggle and absolutely rocket towards an amazing 2025. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I hope you got through the heat. I hope, if you're not a cricket fan, that you can still at least celebrate the fact that Australia won 3-1 and we're moving towards the Sri Lanka series and the Women's Ashes Test, which unfortunately I will be away for most of the time, which kind of stinks. But like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. The community tab has been going off because I love talking to you guys about footy in any way that I can, and I am a night owl that thinks of like random things at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Barely anyone else is awake at that time, or if it's even midnight or 1 a.m. So I just schedule them for the morning and you guys can interact. So if you want to get involved in some good footy conversation or some meaningless quizzes, or you like watching the videos, just go ahead, click subscribe, click the bell button, have yourself a fantastic week. I will see you on Thursday, in which I'm going to be doing another individual player video, which I love and cannot wait to put together. Hopefully you watch that one. Hopefully you watch my first video of 25, which nearly 2,000 of you have, which I am immensely grateful for. Shut up, Daz, and learn how to end a video properly. Righto, I will. Thank you again. See you next time.